Someone recently suggested that ICE's aggressive operations in Minneapolis have become so politically toxic that Donald Trump released the Epstein files as a deliberate distraction. Whether that's true or not, Trump is likely furious about the messages Representative Robert Garcia exposed during a congressional hearing today. These leaked texts represent a damning confirmation of what we've witnessed firsthand regarding ICE's conduct. But what's happening behind closed doors and in private communications is equally disturbing. What Robert Garcia revealed at today's oversight hearing is deeply troubling, even for those of us who thought we'd already seen the worst. The exposed messages paint a picture that goes beyond public operations into the mindset and culture within these agencies. We'll examine these texts and explain why they're so politically damaging to the Trump administration. But first, let's start where Garcia did, with his call for accountability.
People, every single one of them, has to be held accountable for the crimes, for the terror, and for the murders that are happening to our own people in this country. We're taking action today because the stakes could not be higher. We mourn both of these two Americans today, and we find that these shootings cannot be justified. We also know they were part of a broader pattern of escalating unlawful violence by the Trump administration and DHS to intimidate dissent. Now, this administration then lied about the events and is now obstructing independent investigations to cover up misconduct and deny accountability to the victims and to the public. They've weaponized the Department of Justice to silence protesters, observers, and, of course, journalists. But I also remind folks that Donald Trump won't be president forever. Kristi Noem won't be the secretary forever. And when you serve this country in an elected office or in uniform, you swear an oath to the Constitution. You pledge to work for all Americans. You don't get a license to kill, and there's no absolute immunity. We're going to stand up for the rights of our communities, and we believe strongly that we need to hear the stories of those that are in front of us today.
Americans have died, and more will continue to die unless genuine accountability is established. There can be no productive collaboration with Kristen Welker, Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, or Donald Trump. Tom Homan is not the adult in the room. These individuals demonstrate a complete absence of compassion or concern for human welfare. Their mission isn't to execute lawful enforcement operations, it's to inflict maximum harm on Americans. This is the belief system driving ICE, and we witness it every time we document their actions on camera. We've seen citizens threatened with placement on terrorist watch lists. We've heard phrases that have become infamous viral moments, like the ICE agent who told a man that if he raised his voice, the agent would erase his voice. These officers operate without a sense of accountability. This isn't a training deficiency that can be corrected. It reflects something deeper and more systemic. The heartbreaking testimony that epitomizes this crisis came from Mari Martinez during today's hearing. Her story about being shot 7 times by an ICE agent is both devastating and revealing. It's this incident that ultimately prompted Representative Robert Garcia to leak the agent's text messages. But before we examine those messages, we need to hear her story directly.
Time stopped. I knew from watching the news coverage of other Border Patrol encounters in Chicago that I was in danger. I watched the vehicle of Border Patrol agent killing Silverio Villegas Gonzalez just 3 weeks prior. I knew I had to get to safety before I was dragged from my car and likely beaten or killed. I drove forward and went around the Border Patrol agents, who jumped out of his car and pointed his gun at me. I moved to the far left lane, striking the curb on the far left side of Kedzie. The next thing I knew, I felt a burning sensation in my arms, legs, and that I had been shot by pepper balls, which I also seen these agents fire at people in our community. As I continued to drive past the Border Patrol agents, I could hear my back passenger window shatter. and I felt bullets continue to pierce my body.
These agents don't need more training. They don't need body cameras. Such measures wouldn't have prevented this shooting because the fundamental issue isn't lack of oversight, it's lack of accountability and consequences. These officers know they're being recorded. They've learned they can simply walk away, faces covered, believing they'll never face repercussions. And until now, they've largely been correct. But that impunity must end, and accountability has to start somewhere. That's exactly what Representative Robert Garcia accomplished today. He sent a clear message to ICE agents. You cannot simply disappear into anonymity. There is no escape. A mask doesn't fully conceal your identity, and your actions will be traced back to you. This is why one of the most disturbing moments to emerge from Trump's ICE operations came when Garcia read aloud the text messages exchanged after the shooting. What those messages reveal is deeply troubling.
It's disgusting, shameful, and it gets worse. Ms. Martinez, these are images of texts sent by the agent who shot you. And they're actually disturbing to read, but I think it's important for the public to see this. The agent linked an article about your shooting and texted, read it, 5 shots, 7 holes. I fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes. Put that in your book, boys. Oh well, it is what it is. Shit happens. This is someone that works for the United States government. I fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes. Now, he was talking about you, and it's our understanding that he was actually bragging about his aim shooting an unarmed American citizen. Is that right?
Correct.
I'm so sorry, Ms. Martinez. DHS has allowed the agent who shot you to remove evidence and to potentially destroy it. Is that correct?
I have to ask again, how can anyone read these texts, watch this footage, witness these events, and feel the appropriate outrage as Americans die, yet still conclude that more training and body cameras are the solution? How could that possibly be the answer? 7 shots fired at an innocent woman in her car, and the agent bragged about it afterward, and the proposed response is more training? The consistent pattern we've seen in reporting on ICE agents, Border Patrol agents, and others carrying out these assaults reveals that many have been doing this work for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, sometimes decades. They have law enforcement experience. But this isn't law enforcement. It's intimidation. It's an operation designed entirely around inflicting cruelty. There's no accountability and no remorse, because cruelty is the point. It's baked into the job. It's the expectation. Greg Camarillo, in his now infamous pep talk to ICE agents captured on camera, explicitly instructed them to rapidly deploy maximum force and conduct as many arrests and detentions as they deem necessary. He told them, in essence, that they operate without checks. What Robert Garcia did today is a check. It's a start. I know it's not enough, but it matters. This is how Democrats must begin operating. The endless rhetoric about tweaks around the edges, working within the system, and incremental reform doesn't work. What Garcia is doing, whether you consider it small or inconsequential, sets a critical example. Yes, Democrats currently lack the power to enact sweeping change. But this action establishes an important precedent. We know who you are, and we know what must be done. That statement matters. Your mask may shield you from public recognition as you terrorize communities, but you cannot hide from the law. You cannot hide from congressional oversight. That won't happen, and that's a promise more Democrats need to make, loudly and publicly. I'm exhausted by cautious, corporate Democrats who call for Kristen Welker's impeachment or claim that leadership changes will fix things. How? If you genuinely believe Welker, who embodies ICE's heartlessness, must be removed, shouldn't the logical conclusion be to dismantle the entire agency? ICE is a physical manifestation of Donald Trump's worst qualities: cruel, unyielding, imposing itself on anyone in its path, viewing itself as wholly unaccountable, utterly shameless. Trump has escaped accountability. He's escaped justice. Perhaps this time we set a different example and actually change things, especially since Americans are already stepping up to demand exactly that. If you need hope after what has undoubtedly been a devastating watch, and I'm sorry, but these stories must be told, Rachel Maddow provided it by sharing stories of Americans standing up to ICE and standing up against the concentration camps. Yes, let's call them what they are. This administration wants to build. You'll find that reporting here.
In Kansas City, they passed a 5-year moratorium on any non-municipal detention facility of any kind being built in Kansas City. That moratorium is designed specifically to stop Trump from putting a prison camp in Kansas City. They say they're ready to defend that in court. And meanwhile, the local real estate company in Kansas City that has reportedly been working with ICE to try to site this prison camp in Kansas City. Well, the local port district in Kansas City is considering cutting off all business with that company in response to their work with ICE. I should also say that local company is just getting dragged through it in the local press. Headline, the Kansas City Star, quote, "The brothers behind Platform Ventures could choose not to sell out Kansas City to ICE." From that op-ed, quote, "Drop the deal. Eat the embarrassment, find another buyer, make a clean break, and say plainly that you don't want your legacy tied to masked men hauling people out of their homes and into warehouses on the edge of town. The alternative is a lifetime of being whispered about behind your backs, everywhere from church fundraisers to the crown seats at the Royals game. People remember, you aren't breaking the law. But you also could choose not to be the villain in this story. You could decide not to treat this moment as just another business transaction. People would remember that too." That's Kansas City. Again, the mayor will be here in just a moment. Tonight's show. Surprise, Arizona. ICE has already bought a warehouse in Surprise, Arizona, to develop apparently into a huge prison camp there. But more than 1,000 people turned out in Surprise, Arizona this weekend to say, "Don't do it. We don't want it here." In Tucson, Arizona, the local press says 6,000 people packed the downtown protesting against ICE.
Americans are driving ICE out of their communities. Individual citizens, ordinary people who never sought elected office, are taking action. If a U.S. senator or member of the House of Representatives lacks the courage to do what everyday community members are doing voluntarily, then they absolutely can and must step up too. Democrats, this is your moment. The time is now. We're watching, we're paying attention, and we'll continue covering this on the show. If you want to support this work, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. If you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Shout out to Representative Robert Garcia, you're holding it down. He truly is one of the best. Keep fighting, everyone. Don't let them silence you.